Hey y'all, it's Lola the Manager, your new favorite project manager, tech junkie, and entrepreneur. This is episode 13 of Life as a Project Manager. First, I want to say thank you to everyone that has been tuning in to my Life as a Project Manager series. When I first started it, I just wanted to give everyone an inside look of what I actually do as a project manager and the different things that I've been exposed to. It has turned into something where people found so much value in it, so let's keep it going. In my last video, we developed a resource management plan for the mock restaurant website project that I created. In today's video, we'll be focusing on creating a communication plan for that same project. Let's get to it. First things first, what is a communication plan? The purpose of a communication plan is to ensure effective and efficient communication among all stakeholders involved in a project. It serves several key functions. Establish communication channels. So the plan is going to outline the different communication channels, whether it be in a meeting, whether it be in a report, whether it be in a presentation. That'll be used to disseminate information and facilitate communication throughout the project lifecycle. Define communication needs by identifying the different stakeholder groups and their communication requirements. The plan ensures that the right communication is delivered to the right audience at the right time through the right channel. Assign communication responsibilities. The plan clearly defines the roles and responsibilities for communication activities, ensuring accountability and avoiding gaps or overlaps in communication efforts. Promote transparency and alignment. Effective communication fosters transparency, enables stakeholder alignment, and helps manage expectations by keeping everyone informed about project progress, issues, and decisions. Facilitate risk and issue management. Regular communication helps identify potential risks and issues early, enabling proactive mitigation and resolution strategy. And lastly, support change management. Consistent communication is essential for managing changes effectively, ensuring that stakeholders are aware of and prepared for any changes that may impact them. So that was a lot, and y'all know I gotta give y'all the meat and potatoes before we can go start dissecting and breaking down other things. In essence, if you remember in our resource management plan, we focused on all these resources, all these different people that are involved in getting this project completed. Now, with the communication plan, we want to focus on how are we going to communicate with all these people, and then what exactly are we going to be communicating to these people? Because everyone doesn't need to know everything. Some people need to know everything, whereas some people only need to know certain information. And that's what the purpose of the communication plan is. As I stated, it is a living document. So depending on how we see the project is going, we may minimize the frequency of communication, or we may need to increase the frequency of communication. There may be more stakeholders that feel like they need certain information, and there may be stakeholders that say, you know what, we don't need all that information. And that's why the communication document is a living document, because it is constantly being updated. Now, you're probably wondering, Lola, who owns this document? Who's supposed to maintain and update it? Baby, you are. So, project manager is typically responsible for developing, maintaining, and ensuring adherence to the communication plan. So it is your job to figure out how we're going to communicate, when we're going to communicate, to who we're going to communicate. Then you're going to make sure that we adhere to it, which means we're actually doing what the plan says we should be doing. Now, just because you own the documentation, right? So you own the communication plan, it is not necessarily your responsibility to do the activities involved in the communication plan. You're going to see in our sample communication plan that there is some collaboration and communication that the project manager is not a part of. However, it is still identified in the communication plan. So without further ado, you know what we about to do. Let's get into the actual sample. So just to recap, because it's a new video, it's a new day, let's make sure that we are focused and we understand what we are doing. So we were given a sample project brief about a restaurant website launch. And then we took that brief and we developed a project charter. This project charter is a formal document that tells us everything about the project, but it is pretty high level. We took the information from the charter to develop our work breakdown structure, which allowed us to create a project schedule. With that, we decided to create a resource management plan as we are figuring out everyone who we need to be part of this project. And then now that we know everyone that is involved in this project, all our resources, we have developed a communication plan. And so in this video, we are going to break down a mock communication plan. Now, every communication plan is different. This is just a template that I like to utilize. Remember, the goal of these videos is for you to have a baseline understanding of how to do these things. And then you can go and remix and customize and do things the way that you see fit. I've always said that you need to learn the game so you know how to finesse the game. You cannot start doing things on your own if you don't know how it actually works. And this is how it works. Let's get to it. So we have our communication plan. When we look at our different columns, we have the communication type. So what type of communication is taking place? We have the audience. So who are the people that are involved in this type of communication? The purpose of the communication, the content within the communication, which is very essential because sometimes we don't even know what's supposed to happen. Like, we understand the purpose of it, like why we have to have it, but what is actually happening within it? Then we have the frequency. So how often, the method, so in what format, and who is responsible for this. Now let's walk through the different types of communication. So at the beginning of the project, you have a project kickoff. This is a literal meeting. So the people that attend this kickoff are typically the people on the project team, as well as the key stakeholders. So remember, the project team are the people that are doing the work. The key stakeholders are typically the one that wants the work done or they benefit from the work being done. The purpose of this type of communication is to introduce the project, the roles, and the responsibilities. And as far as the content within that meeting, we're going to do an overview of the project. We're going to talk about the objectives, the scope, and then the team can do different introductions. The frequency of this is only one time, okay? This is a meeting that happens at the beginning of the project and it will not happen again. There is no other kickoff. The method can be in person or virtually, depending on what structure of the company. And then who's responsible for this? The project manager. When we say responsible, you are responsible for facilitating that communication. So the project manager is responsible for the communication of the project kickoff. They're probably the ones sending the calendar invite, making the deck or the brief or whatever it is that needs to be presented in that meeting. That's who's responsible for it. Now, project status reports. Throughout a project, no matter how long or how short it is, there are status reports that take place. These status reports are for the project sponsor and the key stakeholders. The people that have a stake, the people that want this, they want some type of status report of how things are going. Hey, we are on track. Hey, we're off track. Hey, we're past our budget. Hey, whatever the case is, provide those status reports. Now, like it says, the purpose is to provide updates on project progress, issues, and risks. And then the content of it is you want to make sure that you're communicating things about the project schedule, completed tasks, upcoming milestones, the risk register, and issue log. The frequency of this is weekly, and it's either via email or the project management tool, however way you may decide. It may even be both. And then it's the project manager that's responsible for this. So status reports are typically done every single week, and they are reports pulled by the project manager. Now, when it says email and project management tool, 10 times out of 10, you're using both. There's a tool in which the project is being tracked. You're going to take the information from there or the stats from there, and then you're probably going to put it in an email to send to your audience, which is the project sponsor and the key stakeholders. So the team meetings are for the literal team that is doing the work. These are not meetings where your stakeholders are involved in them. The reason why is because these meetings are designed to coordinate tasks, address concerns, and resolve issues. So in the meeting, the content of that meeting, you're going to have project updates. You're going to talk about task assignments. You're going to talk about blockers and action items. This is typically weekly. It's in person or virtual, and it's facilitated by the project manager. I want to point out that team meetings are equivalent to Scrum or stand-ups, right? So you might hear people say, oh, we have a daily stand-up. Oh, we have a weekly stand-up. This is the same thing that's taking place. Stand-ups are typically facilitated by the Scrum Master, not a project manager. And that's a video for another day about the difference between a project manager and a Scrum Master. We will get there. But for now, understand that when we say team meetings, it means the same thing as a stand-up. Now we have design review meetings. The intended audience is the project team and the key stakeholders. And the purpose of these are to review and approve whatever is going on within the project. So we add these little gates in the project so things do not go past a certain mark without getting approval, because we don't want to make it to the end of the project and find out that our stakeholders were not satisfied. For this specific project, since it is a website launch, we are going to view and approve the website designs. Now, the content of that meeting, that means we want to see the design mock-ups, we want to see the wireframes, we want to see the branding guidelines to make sure what was supposed to happen does happen, so that we can adequately provide an approval. Now, the frequency of this is it's as needed per design phase. So you may do one review meeting because that's all you needed for the project, or your stakeholder may request additional review meetings because they want you to go back to the drawing board and do some more stuff or switch things entirely. The method of this is in person or virtual, and the person that is responsible is the web designer and the project manager. Now, here we see two people. Always understand that when a project manager is one of the people that is responsible, 9 times out of 10, it is defaulted to the project manager. So in this essence, you as a project manager would meet up with your web designer, make sure they have everything that they need, and then schedule that meeting based off of your availability. So now we have development milestone reviews. With the project, we have a design, right? So somebody has to design what the website is gonna look like, and then somebody has to actually develop what the website will be. So they need to go in and add the code. Here, we have the project team and the key stakeholders that will be in that communication. And the purpose of it is to review and approve development milestones. The content, so the content of that meeting will be demonstrations, code walkthroughs, and test results. All of that will be taking place in the communication of these development milestone reviews. It is as needed based on how much development needs to take place. It is in person or virtual, and that is the responsibility of the developers and the project manager. So once again, when we have two people that are responsible and it is the project manager as one of them, that means the project manager needs to take the initiative and reaching out to the developer to letting them know, hey, we have a milestone review coming up. Do you have everything that we need? They'll say yes. All right, great. I'm going to schedule it for this day. Is that cool? Yep. Now you go and look at the project team and stakeholders availability. Then we have content and SEO reviews. Remember, this is specific to this project. As you can see, reviews and review meetings are a type of communication that take place. This is for the project team and key stakeholders. The purpose is to review and approve website content and SEO strategies. So in that meeting, the meat of the meeting, the content, we're gonna look at the website copy, we're gonna look at media assets and the SEO plans. This is going to be as needed per the content phase. This can happen via email or virtual meeting, and it's the responsibility of the content creator, SEO specialist, and project manager. Now, as you can see with this, it says email, which means this isn't something that you need to have a meeting for. You can just send it out and have it reviewed via email, but if there's things that need to be discussed, a virtual meeting will suffice. So after all of the design, the development, and the content has been reviewed and approved, now you need to test to ensure quality assurance, right? So this is for the project team and key stakeholders. The purpose is to report testing progress, issues, and resolutions. In there, you're gonna have the test plans, the test cases, the bug reports, the test metrics. This is going to happen weekly during the testing phase. So understand that testing is not something that happens throughout the duration of the project. There's a specific session for it, which is why the frequency is what it is. This can take place via email or the project management tool. So there is not a meeting that needs to happen. All of this is updated in the project management tool, and now there's email communication with screenshots from the project management tool of the test plans, the test cases, the bug reports, and the test metrics, all those. And this is the responsibility of the QA tester, aka quality assurance, and the project manager. Now, stakeholder meetings. This is solely for key stakeholders. The purpose of it is to discuss project status, concerns, and decisions. So now that we're in the meeting, the content consists of project updates, risk, issues, any change requests that need to happen. Now, the frequency of this is not often, because if everything else is running on track, we really should not be meeting every week. The stakeholders have other major projects in flight. We have to assume that they do not have the availability to meet with us often. So that's going to be monthly, in person, or virtual, and that is the project manager. So it might just be one project manager, one stakeholder, or one project manager, three stakeholders. Regardless of what it is, that's what that communication would look like. Risk management meetings. So this is for the project team and the risk owners. Okay. Now I want to highlight this term because we haven't seen it before. In the risk management plan, which we'll talk about in our next video, there were risks that were identified. And then there are people in which they are responsible for that risk. For instance, if something goes over budget, somebody is responsible for that risk. Somebody is responsible for the money within the organization. So they own it. Now, they may not be part of the literal project team of doing the work, but they own something within this project. So that's why it says risk owner. Now, the purpose of this is to identify, assess, and mitigate project risks. And the content of that meeting is the risk register. So we've seen this word, I believe, twice already. A risk register is pretty much a list of all the risks that we have identified thus far, and risks that have popped up or issues that have popped up. And we keep track of it in a risk register. Also, we'll talk about the risk response plan. So the mitigation plans. And side note, when you hear the word mitigate, we're talking about reducing or minimizing something. So we want to reduce or minimize our risk when we say mitigate risk. The frequency of these meetings is monthly because since we already identify what the risks are, we're just monitoring to see what actually happens. That's why we don't need to meet as frequent. The method would be in person or virtually. Then you have the project manager that's responsible for that. Then we go to the change control board meetings. So this is for the project team and the change control board. Now, change control board is a new word that we have not discussed yet. But when we say change control, we're talking about things not going the way that they were outlined in the plan. So now we need to make a change. However, we can't just go make a change. There is a process in order to make changes, and there is a board that approves these changes. The board that approves these changes is the change control board. And when we say change control board, we're not talking about like big corporate founder level people. We're just talking about, for this project, we have developed a change control board, or within the PMO, there may be a change control board that assesses all changes across the board, right? Change control board meetings. The purpose is to review and then approve or reject change requests. So just because, hey, we need to change this, that doesn't mean it'll get approved. We may say, let's just continue as is, and that's just what we're gonna have to take. But different changes that you may see is, let's say there is a new project manager. So the old project manager left, there's a new project manager. Well, there's a change control here. There needs to be a change request to say, hey, we need to change the project manager that is on all the documentation. That's an example. The content is going to be your change request log and impact assessments. So change request log is exactly what it sounds like, a log of all the changes that we are requesting we can make. And then the impact assessments is, what is the impact of this change? So you've made this list of requests, but you've also did an assessment of how this change will impact the current plan and structure of this project. Now, change control board meetings are as needed. There may not necessarily need to be a change, or there might need to be a change like every week. You never really know with these projects. Some things are just unexpected. So it is as needed, and it can take place in person or virtual. Also, I want to point out that it can take place via email depending on how your company has decided to handle change requests. And then who's responsible? The project manager and the change control board. So as a project manager, you know what all the change requests are. You have the log, and then you are going to reach out to the change control board about setting up that session so y'all can discuss it. You have your project lessons learned meeting. So this is for the project team and the key stakeholders. This typically happens at the end of the project. The purpose of it is to capture lessons learned and best practices. So In there, we're going to talk about the successes, the challenges, the good, the bad, areas of improvement, and just a whole retrospective of how all of this went down in comparison to what we said was going to happen. And the frequency is once, right? We're only going to do this one time, and it's towards the end. Sometimes it can be after the project. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Depends on what your timeline looks like. And the method is in person or virtual, and the project manager is responsible for this communication. Lastly is a project closeout meeting. So the project team, the key stakeholders, this is where we come together and formally close the project and transition things to operations. So one of the things about IT software development project is the project may be to solely develop this new software, this new technology, this new system. All we're doing is developing it as a project. However, there's probably a team that has to operate and maintain this new thing that we developed. And that's what we call operations. They are responsible for the operating of it. So we need to transition this project that we just created to operations. So then now you know what we went through with developing it, some issues that may have come up after we went live, but now it's on your plate. We've passed the baton over. Now the content in there, you're going to talk about project achievements, final deliverables, transition plan. That's what happens there. And then it only happens once. It's at the end of the project. And then it is going to be in person or virtual. And it is the responsibility of the project manager. So those are probably like the key elements that you would include in your communication plan. You are developing this before the project starts. Then once the project starts, you present this to the team and you ask them if there's anything they want to modify. Example, stakeholder meetings on line 10. They're supposed to take place monthly. Your stakeholder might say, actually, I would like to have those meetings every week. Let's do that. And then you'll go ahead and update this. Your team might say, hey, I don't think we should do weekly because this is such a major project with lots of money involved and lots of people involved. And just, it's a very like high risk, very important project. I think we should be meeting twice a week. And that's what you would put here and you would coordinate that. So remember that this is the plan of action that you and your team is going to take for communication. However, it is open to adjustments. It can change, okay? And you need to be open to that. It's not, here's the plan and we got to stick to it. It's, here's the plan. Before we put it in motion, I want your feedback on it. All right? So that is our communication plan. That wasn't too hard. Thank you for tuning in. And now let's get back to the main video so we can wrap this up. And just like that, we are done navigating the communication plan. Catch me in the next video where I talk about risk management. Ooh, it's getting spicy. As always, thank you for being here with me. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you decided to be here to get professional development, and I love that for you. Be sure to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Lola the Manager. And as always, until next time.